Hello and welcome to the Tech Lunch Podcast, where we encourage our listeners to learn something new about tech every week. This can range from learning about new and exciting tech applications to the advancements in coding and technology. If you are always learning, you will always be a step above the rest. Take the time during lunch or during a break to listen and learn, kind of like a lunch and learn, but for the ears. This podcast will open the listeners' ears to new and exciting technologies they may have not been privy to in the past. These topics will range from manufacturing technologies to data collection technologies and everything in between. Hello, I'm Nick.
Hey, I'm John.
Hello, I'm Ed.
And, this week, as you heard, we got Ed back with us. He's done off gallivanting through, the great states and, probably playing with himself. But, before we get to today's topic, you missed last week's episode where we talked about New Year, new tech resolutions like we did about a year or so ago this time. So, we'll ask you the same question. What is your New Year tech resolution?
I have a few, but we'll just start with one that I started, 6-7 months ago. Finally got around to actually get to it this year. So I started to do more 3D printing, got the printer set up as much as I knew how, and struggled through some things, but I was able to print some stuff. So my resolution is I want to become better at making my own designs. I also want to finish the 3D printer challenge and print off some unique stuff.
Okay. Well, see, and that's something we kind of both had 3D printing with ours too, because we were, this year kind of learning about a lot of it and got to a point where now we want to use it to take the next step. But I'm happy you're finally printing.
That's true. Your printer is too.
Been a long time coming. Yeah,
probably got lonelies in the corner.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
But
pretty impressed with some of the results. So
yeah, they look good.
But I have to say this, I did do my due diligence. I did do research. I did watch a lot of YouTube. So still not there. I still want to be better, and I want to use a more scientific approach.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually want to do analysis of why prints fail and why prints succeed. And I think from that I can make a cookbook or I can make a best practice that I can go by. So, I think you can make, just like you make recipes in batch processing, I think you can do the same thing with 3D printing. You just have to pay attention to what it's doing and listen to what the 3D printer is telling you.
And, the funny part is that kind of leads us into this week's topic or rabbit hole or however you want to look at it. It's getting into that, getting into your the beginning 3D printing, adventure, I guess you could say. We've talked about a lot of our adventure into this thing, but pretty much the beginning steps from somebody who is a beginner, through the eyes of a beginner. It's that's kind of what we want to talk about this week, and because we've all been through different routes to get to where we're at. Some of it was out of necessity, while some was out of just pure fun.
I wouldn't say stupidity, but sometimes curiosity is why my printer is broken. Wonder if I can make this better.
Yeah.
So, but
you can't always take apart the oven and put it back together again.
Well, that's one of the things that I said for me, because I'm taking a more methodical approach. Because, like Nick said, I am new, or relatively new to 3D printing. I mean, I learned about 3D printing through both guys, and learned a lot from those guys. So I watched, I listened.
It was your first time really executing prints on the printer itself.
Yeah, but I had to build up confidence to do that.
Yeah,
it was first, I printed the block, where I just saw, what the thickness was and try to get that where it was
calibration.
About calibrating the bed to where it was about the same thickness.
Mhm.
Okay, and it's almost there. It's still off. So like I said, that I'm still learning, so
Yeah.
I can still see a difference in that first layer.
Yeah. Curiosity is
know.
the master of all invention.
Yeah. So let me present it to you like this then. So your first prints, just first impression. Do you think that you will continue this printer as is? You're gonna put modifications on it. I know you mentioned building your own, but are you planning on making any changes to this to try to, I don't know, put some bells and whistles, make it fancy on there?
I don't think so. I think I'm gonna keep this one stock because if I can learn how to print on a stock printer, then I know what to do when I build the next printer.
And that's stock Ender 3 Pro, right?
Yeah, stock Ender 3 Pro. So the ideal is to learn how to master the stock Ender 3 Pro. Just like when a carpenter doesn't have a bevel saw, he only has a circular saw, he has to learn how to use that circular saw. But once he learns how to use that circular saw, once he gets the bevel or compound miter saw, he better understands how to use that too.
Yeah.
So for me, the whole journey for me was I want to master this and push this printer as far as it can go with standard, no modifications, the same slicer.
Yeah.
And then I can say, oh, okay, well, this is the limitation of this printer. Now I'll start to build a printer like I want it, and it won't be an Ender. It may be some Ender components, but it'll be my printer. So my goal is to build my own 3D printer. You know, not that I'm trying to market it or sell a 3D printer, but I think if I can build a 3D printer from learning from using the standard or the Pro, the Ender 3 Pro, I think that's going to better help me to build a printer that I want. Now, of course, that's just the project. I mean, ultimately, I'm going. I'm probably going with a bamboo. I mean, I know everybody else is on other stuff.
You know,
so.
You were talking earlier about wanting to get another Ender. You know, is that one you're gonna dink with and maybe change some firmware around and plan the phone with firmware?
Well, I don't know. I might change the maybe the firmware and the slicer may be different on that one, but that's probably all I'll
What about adding a bed level, a bed probe?
Nah, I think I'll leave it.
Save yourself some time and energy.
It's
No,
nice.
because I've learned something. I've leveled that bed once, and other than I haven't got that first block print that you gave me for checking the bed, it's only one corner that I got a problem with.
Okay.
And I've printed on that for now 2 weeks.
Okay.
And now, if you had a clipper and a bed probe, he'd be able to tell him how many turns he has to take.
Yeah, it tells me everything within.
There's an
so many
or.
decimal points.
There's an or.
Yeah.
I can build my own sensor.
Yeah.
I can put my own. Now I didn't say I wouldn't put external stuff on it.
Yeah,
I'm just
that
not
makes
going to
sense.
modify that.
I have a induction probe on my Voron.
Yeah. So what I mean by that, I may or may not be making some APIs with Python that may or may not be interfacing with something that interfaces with the Ender.
You might need Moonraker for that.
No, you won't because it's
So it's
external.
going to act as a node in your whole system.
And
yeah,
I can
that makes sense.
basically I'm going to make a dashboard.
I mean,
I don't want, for me, maybe the only thing that I am thinking about doing is adding a external storage.
What about going to like Octoprint? Octoprint doesn't do any of the firmware; it just kind of monitors your printer.
I may do something with Raspberry, but it won't be Octo because I mean they still, even though they got 100,000 that's supposed to come out,
well, I think
I don't justify the price of paying for that when I can use other things.
You can use his Orange Pi. He's got
Well,
an old PC.
so yeah. First off, Orange Pi is an equivalent that I've been using for my 3D printers, and I'm actually going to use for my Voron, and it's pretty. It can install.
Robust.
Yeah, it'll do. Now, granted, when it comes in, it is not. It is a Android image.
It is hilarious.
It is weird.
It is hilariously bad.
But once you get it lets you image whatever device or whatever you have on file or repository you have. But the whole thing, like about the mods, I think that you have a good idea about trying to keep the Ender itself as a single, like, unit, and when you start adding Octoprint, you're not necessarily pulling all of the processes off of there, but it gets dangerously close to pulling the processes away from the motherboard that you're trying to test the limitations on. So I think unless you're not worried about the motherboard, I probably would steer away from it. But if you're going to go further into the future, I think there is no way that you're going to get away from another type of computer controlling your geometric code or your Python scripting and things like that. They're most likely going to need some type of other CPU because that you know, get this price down to get the printers that cheap. They had to cut some corners, and a lot of that is CPU power.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. So when I say that,
and the plastic extruder and the springs,
I've got Pico.
cheap.
So I've got, you know, the.
You can make your right. You can make it Wi-Fi.
You can make it work. Yeah.
I do have the W.
Yeah, you can make it Wi-Fi now. Technically,
I do have the 2 new ones, and I got those for like right at about $5 a piece.
Yeah, you can make it Wi-Fi.
So for me, when I say external storage, so basically I'm gonna make a server that can take the place of the micro SD. That is the only thing I will probably modify.
The database.
I'm gonna get away from the micro SD. That's the only thing I don't like.
Yeah, makes sense.
Don't like putting it on a micro SD and when I can just have some kind of external storage that I can figure out a way to have access to, and it recognizes it. So that would probably be the one thing that I will modify. But as far as like adding, well, I'm lying. I'm gonna modify something else too.
What's that?
The hot end probably will change a little bit.
Oh yeah, you need all metal.
Well, I've got, as far as gears and stuff, that's all metal, but that's not the part I'm talking about. I'm talking about the
heat brake itself.
The heat brake and the actual knobs.
Yeah, that's you have to replace all metal.
I'll probably go with a better version of that. And that's just, to me, that's like disposable things. Yeah. So I don't see that as really modifying anything. But as far as like modifying the board or adding which I am curious about the Octopi, but for other projects, not necessarily for that application. But for me, I want to learn how to use to bake a good pie. You know, and we're not talking about a dessert pie. We're talking about a pie. To bake a pie, that's done by hand. A machine is not kneading that dough. Yeah. A person's hand is getting in there and do that. So I think it's the same way for me. It's the best way for me to learn. And if I can learn that, I think I can become better at 3D printing. I can recognize problems readily and fix the problems because I'm gonna have problems.
Oh yeah, you're gonna start seeing.
It's gonna be problems. Yeah, I already know that the problem's coming.
If you look at the forums, you'll start seeing like everybody else's problems look similar to yours too. But I'll propose another question, and this is not even just for Ed; it's for all of us because I think you can answer it too, Nick. Looking back at your first printer, and I know technically the Ender 5 wasn't your first printer, but like we're gonna talk about it like it is. Would you have picked the same printer, knowing what you know now? Do you think that your results would have been the same? Are you happy with your results? Do you regret it in any way or anything like that? Or what printer would you have gone with if you had to choose a different one?
I mean, if you're asking me, I'm bamboo all the way.
Because the bamboo was
simplicity, dear Watson, simplicity.
The first time we started talking to you about printing, the bamboo wasn't around, so that one wasn't there. But I understand. I
think it has potential. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, we know that there will be problems. We know there are going to be bugs. We know there are going to be things you're going to be like, well, that didn't turn out how I thought it would.
Yeah, and I want to play with that LiDAR stuff too. That LiDAR stuff on a printer would be freaking awesome.
Potential-wise.
Yeah. The potential's there.
You know, it could be a game changer if you're doing things where you want to do multicolor prints.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can network them together and add more than one bank of color too, so, which is nice.
I mean, so that to me, that's my mind is thinking like, hey, what if I want to do, the Incredible Hulk? He got purple pants, but he's green. Yeah. Okay, well, I want the pants to be purple. I want him to be green. Yeah. So I mean, things like that is what I would be curious
Yeah.
about, and that's probably going to be. I'm
Print
saying
accuracy is another thing. Yeah.
I'm saying it like casually. That's going to be freaking hard.
Yeah, it's not like it's the multiple material units are not the easiest thing in the world. We're probably going to end up trying to build one with the Voron, but it's something that's like it's a great idea. You can do it by hand, but like getting it done manual or automatic with with one of the machines that plug in so much easier. And the bamboo makes plug and play. It takes it from Prusa to a new level to plug and play. So it's I don't think that it's going to disappear for a long time. It's probably going to become one of the standards.
I think what's going to happen with the bamboo is going to push. I say Prusa because I think the guy that started Prusa is a innovator. I think it's going to push him to make even better products. They've already started a concept too that uses this same concept, and I think he will probably be able to come in at a lower cost point, and it's probably going to be just as good as the other.
Yeah, you start doing like Form Labs and stuff like that, and you start getting to the resin version of that printer too. So
now we're making shoes for Adidas.
Yeah,
exactly.
The contract has been done, and the soles are 3D printed, and they will be sold.
Oh, the 44? Yeah, they're already online.
Yeah,
they're already on the market.
I was going to buy one, but then I was like,
they're retardedly expensive, but
I could buy a printer for this.
Here's the thing: we can print our own soles, and you can take the. I'm not joking. You could buy a pair of Adidas that fit that profile, and the CAD is available for the Adidas, and you can actually heat that sole that's on the shoe up now, and take that 3D printed sole and glue it to that shoe and have your own custom.
Yeah, I think the problem that we looked at was the issue
the
was
heat treat version that they
is that they developed something. The company that was working with Adidas developed something that was two-part. It was thermal cure and it was spin dry. So like they hit the curing process. Well, with UV rays as well. Yeah. They hit the curing process in a few different angles, which made it more durable and passed the 90,000 or the 9,000 hour test, right? So,
but once again, if it's your shoe,
just to support.
If it's your shoe, you can prototype your shoe.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can say, well, hey, these Adidas, and I'm not trying to sell these to Adidas. I just want to make a sole that's custom for me. It's the same thing as going to the Dr. Scholl's machine and standing on there and they print out
your own
inserts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm saying like it's the exploration part of it. If we're looking at it from like somebody that's new to 3D printing, well, they're kind of naive to, well, all this going in there. Well, why? Because that's how it is. But why? If you don't fail, if Einstein hadn't, if Edison hadn't failed as many times as he had, then we wouldn't have the incandescent bulb.
Yeah, I agree with that.
As far as the filament. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's one of the things. And I think another thing for me will be, how are we going to be responsible as 3D printing hobbyists or 3D printing entrepreneurs with our waste? What are we gonna do? That's
not
another.
Everybody's making their own recycling. Not everybody's working on their own recycling.
Yeah, I think that in the future, it's gonna have to come down to, if you're a business involved in 3D printing, to be a good steward to what you're doing, you have to do recycling. You have to recycle what you're doing. You have to do it on premise, on your own, not ship it out to anybody. You have to do it for yourself, because I think that it keeps waste out of the infill,
and those going straight to the infill. Right. That for garbage collectors, it's just not economical to try to get something that small.
Little flecks of plastic.
Whereas bottles got places that can recycle them easy. Even there are people taking bottles now that turn them into filament. So I mean,
that's why it's like if I have a failed print, which over the year I've had a lot, couple bags of just nonsense stuff that didn't work out in my favor. That's why I keep it, just in case I build a recycling machine so I can recycle all of it myself. Or, inside my own company, we build one and stuff like that. We kind of get to that point of where we can recycle our own, garbage. To make more filament, to drive the prices down a little bit. However, it's not just that, but it's also just to, say, hey, guess what? For every roll of filament, we create a half a roll.
Yeah.
And then, you can go to, and because the big thing is you want to go to, when you sell these things or sell parts or, be a good steward, you're trying to say that, hey, guess what? The only plastic that I send into a filament, into the dump, not even to the dump, into the recycling bin, is the spool holders. Even those I can reuse later. So technically I have a zero waste piece, unless it's like cardboard. Yeah. Even then, cardboard you throw it into
recycling. Yeah,
you throw it into recycling and you send it on its way. That or you incinerate it on site.
And cardboard's biodegradable anyway, so
right.
So it's a good thing a lot of spool makers started doing that instead because it's better than the plastic.
Well, and here's the other thing. So I've been basically 3D printing roughly 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks I probably had. Probably about 10 prints that didn't work out. 8 of them I was there to stop it. So
some of them you created spaghetti.
Basically, it was just a little bit of filament, and 2 I did. They got halfway through and failed.
Yeah, they had some spaghetti.
No, it unintended at any point, or
I left for a few minutes and came back, and it had knocked the. It was the pig.
Okay.
That comes standard with the the Ender 3 Pro, and it basically just playing ping pong with it.
Yeah.
So somehow it knocked it loose.
It need a brim.
Yeah. Usually a brim will fix that. Yeah.
But I guess if the question is on printers if we would change anything going around the bend, I started it with actually with one of my good friends Ender 3s when he used to live with me. Started playing with that for a little bit. Did some things with that, and then took a break from 3D printing for a while. And then pulled back into it, unwillingly.
Unwillingly?
Well, I said...
Swiped his card unwillingly.
It's more or less like, hey, I want something fun to do.
Yeah.
So,
this is cool,
and it's pretty much one of those unwilling to, not have fun. But I'd say right now I couldn't be happier with the Ender 5 that I've got.
Yeah.
From going from an Ender 3 to an Ender 5, hell, I got 2 more Ender 3s in there. One's in the pieces because being used to be cannibalized for the freaking for the Ender for the Voron.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't give it up. I think that it's next race thing, and one thing what I can do with that. I could put a top, or I could swap the top on it and turn it Core XY, and then I can run 2 Core XY printers.
Yeah, it's pretty close to a Core XY already.
Yeah, they sell the kit. It's like less than $400 to rip that top off and drop a new top on it, and make it a Core XY.
See, and
it's extremely accurate. And then when I get the Voron done, that's when we'll start working on the multi-material unit.
Yeah.
For the Vorons.
So I guess you did have a chance to get back into it because it wasn't your printer in the first place that was kind of messing around. You got to jump in a good place. I started with the Ender 3 Pro. That was my very first printer. I kind of got to watch the Prusa and I guess because at the time my brother only had the one printer. And it was the only printer that we had all together. So I only got to watch the Prusa go to work. And I was kind of the first one that got the Ender. And then he got an Ender, and then all of us started getting Enders. Don't get me wrong, it's a great, fantastic, amazing starting point, the Ender 3, and it taught me a lot about what I need to know. But going back, I would have not started with the Ender. I would have gotten the Prusa. And the worst part about that is I would have missed out on a lot of the tinkering that I got to do.
You know tinker.
I would have ended up I would have ended up maybe with an Ender after a while, right? But honestly, going back, I would have threw a couple more $100 at it. But this was before the bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
This is before there was another one that we looked at that was like in its enclosure. It looked like a triangle type frame or
Is that the
something
one that had
like
the
that.
end mill in it?
Yeah, it had three. It was like switched between three different types of tool head.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
End mill laser and 3D
Yeah,
printer.
honestly, if I had to choose,
That would be it.
Yeah, one of those probably would be it, because it's got the multifaceted. Like, well, I was thinking about it the other day. I was thinking about buying an ender to repurpose it into a laser engraver. However, Creality is coming out with a tool head swap, so that's something that I'm gonna be very interested in. I might buy an ender just for a tool head swap. So it does everything that I was gonna want to do just by swapping my the hot end out. Yeah, so
great way to use old gear.
Right, I
recycle old gear.
So I would have wanted a unit that either did more than one thing, or was. Like, for the Prusa, my main reason I would want to get those is it's going to be producing consistently for much longer with minimal preventive maintenance on my side. However, I would have lost probably a lot of time learning.
Yeah. If you think about it, now they have that CR6 and the CR series of enders. Yeah. Then they also have it's the Ender. It's the Core XY enclosed Ender now that they came out with.
Is it Ender 7?
Ender 7, yeah.
I think it's Ender 7.
It's got a small print bed on it, but it's not. It's not here nor there. But Ender's making strides of bringing new things in. However,
they still got the pedal to the floor.
Right. There's still throttle on it, but you still have to deal with everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think everybody else, we're starting to see the resurgence of tech in the maker space. And what I mean by that is it's influencing how we build printers, how we build certain things. You got the interchangeable tool heads, you got the CAN bus stuff now. Yeah. You got the automotive industry involving and coming into the 3D printer world with CAN bus, which what I'm running on the Voron. But and they can actually run it on an Ender. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's we're not so relativity space is printing that rocket shell. Yeah. If it starts getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, I wouldn't be surprised that we're maybe arc laser or arc welding a frame of a car and then sanding it down or painting it.
Mm-hmm. That's it. We're 3D printing out of concrete, freaking homes.
Yeah, and people like the look of the layer lines in the concrete, so they just leave it, and it's a $50,000 home. It's a cheap house.
Now here's the thing. I'll ask this, Ed, since you're getting into all of this, what slicer settings are you running?
I'm still running the Prusa. Everything's still default.
Prusa slicer.
Prusa slicer. You're running the Creality slicer.
You're talking about Cura.
Cura.
Are you using Cura at all?
No, I think it's the Prusa slicer.
Prusa slicer. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you'd know if it was Cura Ultimaker.
It's the Prusa slicer. Okay. I use that. I haven't. Like I said, I've been doing it for 2 weeks, so I was like, let's print, see what happens, and
you'll learn the settings soon enough.
Well, I mean I've had the 2 weeks to see, because I wanted to see. I'm still trying to see when I get to the point where it's not printing at all. Mm-hmm. I hadn't got there yet, So not printing at all like it's broken, but you keep having failures. So
yeah, once you start really playing with Prusa slicer, you'll find some things that you can play with. One of my favorite settings, I'll say this, inside Super Slicer, which is just Prusa slicer a little bit on steroids. For us clipper folks,
definitely on steroids,
is the fact that I can say print one piece at a time. So if it does fail, it's already printed one complete piece, and then we'll move on to the next. Mm-hmm. Print that completely, move to the next. Print that completely, move to the next. Sequential printing. Yeah, that is probably one of my favorite settings in all of Super Slicer, and also Prusa Slicer. It's still there too.
Yeah. Well, that's probably something that I'm looking at, like I said, because I've basically trying to run it as long as I can to see how long the nozzles last. Yeah. Because I want to know, hey, I ran this nozzle and I'm just using a brass nozzle. Mm-hmm. I'm only running PLA though, so I mean it's not like I'm not
as abrasive as others.
But I have had a few issues the material strings sometimes before it starts. You know, although it does make a line and
a little purge line it does before, right?
It does wipe off sometimes, but sometimes it don't. Sometimes it sticks to the nozzle and then that affects the print.
Yeah, it might knock the print off. That happens to me too.
The other thing I've noticed is that I've used compressed air to blow out the where the gears are, where we get fibers and stuff. So I keep that clean pretty good. I always look at the belts. But I mean, for the most part, I haven't done anything that's like overly complicated. I've done a few prints. They were like box type things. I've done a few small bus things, but most of it's been 2-dimensional. So 2-dimensional stuff is, you know, probably not that demanding, or probably not that.
To start, though.
Just try, start playing with vases and get you to get the vase prints down.
Well,
vase prints.
Well, like I said,
Max bed size. Yeah, exactly.
Send it.
I did try some things because, you know, I told you about the a couple of statues I was trying to print, and then it failed horribly. You know, I was like, that didn't work. But I didn't use a brim, so maybe I'll try a brim and try it again. So, and
there's always one print out there that is the ultimate like torture test. You know, for a printer is the triangle on triangle.
Oh man,
triangle. You know, pretty much.
Okay. It's pretty brutal for your printers. Yeah.
I can't remember the name, but it's a math term. You know.
It's not tetrahedron, but
I think it is a tetrahedron.
I mean, I guess
your triangles make up the triangle itself, right. And so that right there is, if you really want to push a printer to its max, is you send a good size one of those, and just sit back and watch.
Right. I guess for me, it's more like, okay,
infinity cube or tesseract or something.
I like this thing right here. I want to make it. You know, so like, you know, the next thing is I'm making gears because I'm gonna do some animatronic stuff. I'm making gears because I want to make a few projects to see. Okay, hey, this is how that works. So it's right now just stuff that I'm interested in. I did a few things for gifts for the family over the holidays, some ornaments and coasters and stuff like that.
I
did.
Well, that, and then it's also getting your relatives and family interested in 3D printing. I'm like, oh, you did that? Yeah, I did that on my 3D printer.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. You know, so it's a way to introduce that to other people too. You know,
I've had that conversation a lot over this winter.
But my goal is I want to, you know, manufacture sculptures. So I want to, you know, come up with my own designs, do some things like that. I would like to. I'm not gonna say like. I'm going to build a robot, so I think I'm going to take the Thor challenge. I got a pretty...
man, I don't know. I got to finish mine first. Oh, man.
I got a pretty extensive background in electronics, so I'm not afraid of electronics. Electronics be fairly simple for me. The 3D printing, we'll see. We'll see how strong that'll be. We'll see how much torque that can take. And I may not be able to use PLA, but we're going to find out.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. I didn't print any of my pieces in PLA. I went straight to PETG because I was like, I doubt it.
Well, I'm gonna find out.
It'll be interesting to see what it's like if you print on ABS.
Yeah, that's true too.
I'm just saying, I'm gonna find out what it takes to break PLA.
No.
215
degrees Celsius.
We're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it pop. Then, if it's gonna twist and pop, we're gonna see.
Yeah, I've just noticed that my PLA is very rigid after it cools down after a while.
Oh yeah, it's nice and warm.
Yeah, but now what's going with Thor is Thor is going to become Jarvis. He may start out as Thor, but Thor will be Jarvis. So Jarvis will be taking my prints off my printer. That's the goal.
That'd be good.
Yeah. But you put an enclosure.
See, he answered our question. That was going to be my next question. This is what tech are you trying to get your hands onto? You're trying to build a robot arm, and the goal is to get the prints off the bed.
Well, I don't want to be there. Jarvis can sit and he can supervise and stop whatever need to be stopped.
Then you walk up. What we got today, Jarvis? He's like, well, I stopped 2 prints.
Like, well, why?
Restarted them. Yeah. Power outage. There you go. You had some power.
Well, and
it's impressive.
As long as we have a reason and we understood why we did what we did, so that we can correct those things.
Yeah.
Until you get home one day and it's printed 1,000 mini robots.
Yeah, and they're taking over the house.
It's good too. I said, Jarvis, I'm proud of you.
Jarvis done made 50 other robot hands, and they're taking.
He knocked them on the floor for your robot.
Jarvis, I'm proud of you. I didn't know you had it in you.
Jarvis is taking over.
That
One
or
house at a time.
Hey, remember Jarvis? I'm your friend.
knock him on the floor,
I'm your father. I
maybe.
made you.
Knock him on the floor, turn him into Legos.
Jesus. Oh man.
It's the battle of the Lego.
But yeah, no, it's a nice goal. I mean, honestly, a robot arm is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and then it's just there's so many things to do. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So.
Well, eventually I'll build one after I'm done. I gotta finish this.
You were the one that showed
project.
me the first one, and I was like, "That's cool. I'm gonna make that."
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I mean, the goal is also to finish the $300 challenge. I just have a few more parts to get and the structure, but yeah, the goal is to do that and to see if we can make something better than Andrew. I still have plans for that, but that's why I want to keep this one stock.
Yeah.
So I can compare. Okay, hey, this is where I started. Hey, here's all the good things. There was great about this printer, and then I can say, well, hey, I don't like this. I don't like that. I want this. I want that. Hey, this would be better if it was this way, and I can do that.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Makes
sense. That's when you start getting a lot into a lot of the advocacy and stuff like that for 3D printing too. And that's what goes into the fact that that what you were talking about, recycling everything and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's being good stewards. And the thing is the one thing about when you get on the advocacy part and you get on the good steward part, it's increasing the awareness of 3D printing by adding to it.
Yeah.
Influencing other tech into it, rebuilding new things, coming up with new ideas, exploring the unknown. I think we've gotten to that point. As the 3D printing society grows larger and larger and larger, we're pushing the boundaries further and further and further. Mm-hmm. And I think as we add to that, I think we'll get someplace. If we can, it's like if you can reach one beginner at a time, what would you tell them?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, is that a real question?
It's a question.
Yeah. So if I could tell or reach one beginner, what would I say?
Yeah. What would be one thing you would tell them?
Don't stop trying. It's gonna fail. Like that's it.
I would even piggyback off of that. I would say, well, the whole purpose of a person being a technical person or a techie or being involved in tech is you got a curiosity for why stuff do what it does.
Yeah.
Well, if it failed, why?
There you go.
Always ask why.
Yeah.
Always
Learn.
That's a good one.
Do your research.
Yeah.
That's the best thing that we can do is do your research.
Yeah, and if you don't do your research, then how can you if you don't prepare for failure and success, then how will you know what to do with either?
Exactly. So, it's one of those things, and it's as we get further and further along in this, we're happy that Ed finally welcomed his printer to start printing, because I think he was getting lonely sitting in the corner of his office at the house someplace.
It's been calling out to Ed.
Hey, but
Ed, print.
I think it was worth the wait.
Well, he was sitting there with 9,000 rolls of filament. So.
Yeah, he's sitting in the corner of the room. He's like, "Hey guys, I bought 4 more."
Hey,
why? You haven't even used the first one you bought.
I'm almost through the second one.
So if anybody out there needs extra filament,
you gave me the white filament that came with the printer. You had one that came with your printer that was different.
Yeah.
And then I used
I think
this.
It was Creality. They send a little bit of their own.
But I think his came with one. I don't think
it came with a mini spool.
Mine came with the little small one. He gave me the bigger one.
Yeah, but I think it's still Creality.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And then, so I used all that. I had very little waste with that one.
You're one of the only people I know that have used that first spool that came with the
I used the whole spool. Like it's nothing left.
I still have my first spool.
I got plenty of mini spools like that.
Here's a funny story. I forgot to tell y'all this. So I was like, I had the smart idea. It was the last little bit of filament on the spool. And I'm running all this through there. So I ran it through there. Mind you, I had never changed the filament. So it took me 30 minutes to figure out how to change the filament.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was like, it's stuck. How am I gonna get it out? I tried to pull it backwards. I was like, well, that ain't gonna work. Got to take the tension off. It's stuck. So then I said, you know what? what if I just try to heat it up? So I heat it up, and it pulled right out. I said,
There you go.
okay, there you go.
There you go.
Then I ran the other one in. I said, oh, okay.
That's probably
But
the smartest thing you could have thought
I
of.
figured it out.
The small things that they don't put in the notes. That, when you go to change filament, it goes, hey, dummy, heat me up first.
Yeah. If you have a catastrophic fail and the printer stopped and cooled down, heat it back up.
It did.
Because it will fall, the filament will just pop right off.
So I tell you
Your
this
chisel
too.
will be your friend.
Here's the other part that
I use the soldering iron.
I didn't realize. If you do not have enough filament, then your gears slip.
Yeah.
It won't fit, even if you cut the heat on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, I had to heat it up and pull it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have to do.
Moved it. You push the lever.
To be honest, I don't ever let the gears do the retracting for me. I pull it out every time.
No, I didn't even try to retract it. I was trying to push it through. I was trying to let it finish printing, but it wouldn't finish printing because it was not enough material.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's no gear at the other end. So it gets all the way to that, and it goes,
you know what I'm saying? Pushing all the way until it grabs to the end of it.
It just kept slipping.
Well, probably that's the inherent problem, and you're gonna probably run into this again at some point with a single gear extruder. It's because once it slips once, if it pulled any filament with it, it's gonna slip forever.
Yeah. So
until you re-roll you got to cut the whole thing and bring a whole nother spool in.
Basically, all I did was I figured out if you remove the tension, heat up the hot end, and then just pull it. Yeah. Then you feed. Here's the other funny part. Mm-hmm. Then I had to figure out how to get the filament back in because it didn't want to go in.
Okay.
So I had to get it to feed in, and then once I got it to feed in, then it pushed out the other material. Yeah. But I figured it out, like I said, because I was like, damn, what to call them? I said, no, I'm not. I'm not calling them. They're not going to laugh at me until I figure it out.
We would 100% would have laughed first and helped you second. We would have gotten help.
You would have definitely got the chuckle before anything would have happened.
I don't think that we went over very often, and it's such a small thing with feeding the filament. You need to cut it at a 45-degree angle,
or it won't work.
I didn't do any of that.
Well, you could. I mean, to be honest with you, if you straighten it out, it'll go straight through. But the problem is that since it's on a spool, it's curling as it's going in, and it'll curl up and catch. So you can't push it through whatever the hole.
I guess I'll just let
cut it back till it's flat. That's what
I took I took both of them. The first one was already fed in.
Yeah.
So so I made another mistake and got away with it. But the second one, I just fed it in, no cutting nothing.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I usually cut it back.
But it probably will do exactly what you're saying. I just so happen. I think
you got lucky on that rule.
I think this PLA is high quality.
Yeah.
I think it's a good quality. It may be Sun Lu. I have to look to make sure, but it's a good quality filament.
Yeah, I've had take my extruder apart to be able to feed it through, unscrew it, make sure it went through, put it back on, feed it back.
Well, I was going to do that with the hose, and I got to messing with the hose. And nah, it's going to be too hard to get back on. So I was like, nah, no thank you.
That's why they give you extra pieces, though. They give you those pieces.
Nah, I was like, nah, I'm gonna wait till this get hard, and then it start rubbing, and then I'll change the whole thing out.
Trying to switch that on the Chiron, I absolutely snapped all of that off. So you're right.
It will eventually. The brake, the heat brake eventually will pass that temperature, and then that will degrade, and you will have problems.
Well, so the problem I experienced it the other day with high temperatures and the normal Bowden tube that's not Capricorn is that if it's not, since you're doing just standard Bowden tube and you're not direct feeding or direct drive with your extruder, there's going to be a bit of plastic, a bit of Bowden tube in there, and no matter what, you're heating it. Well, if you're doing ABS or ASA, you're heating to 250, 260. You're maxing that thing out. It's gonna burn that Bowden tube. And not to say that the Bowden tube is going to catch fire, because it won't. It's just going to melt. Yeah. But it's gonna melt, and it's going to ruin your radius. Mm-hmm. So I had to, the first time that I had started experiencing problems with ABS printing with the Bowden tube that got stock, I had to take the Bowden tube off, snip like 2 to 3 millimeters of the end off and put it back in. Work like a charm. Eventually, I got the Capricorn tubing, which is just higher quality, higher temp rated. I haven't experienced the same issue.
I was debating on doing that for the Voron when I do the.
You should get Capricorn tubing.
I got a spare roll in it.
You're gonna print at a high temperature. It degrades less. Yours direct drive though with the Voron, so it's probably going to not be as noticeable.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about the one that's inside the hot end.
Oh, if it goes, yes.
Inside the hot end.
Then yes, you should do Capricorn tubing.
I mean, so I do know 2 of the settings that I'm running. I know that I'm running at 210 for the hot end and then 60 on the bed.
Okay. I'm running 70 on the bed for PLA plus 215 first layer, 210 second layer.
And you're running same temperature whole way.
Yeah. Then another funny thing was I think it was yesterday. I was looking at the printer and I said 150 degrees. I said, when does it start doing that? I said, oh, it's the ramp up. So then I noticed that it did the ramp up on the hot end. 150, then it goes to 210.
So that's actually a stage for bed leveling. So it goes to that temperature because you shouldn't level your bed at 0 degrees or room temp because you're gonna heat it and it's gonna flex anyways. Yeah. And so no matter which way it flexes, it's not gonna be the same level that you just did. So what it does is it heats that temperature. It does a mesh bed level, and then it starts heating back up to it heats to the main temperature. If you're using anything that like was sent to you from us, it's because it's like coded in there already, and so it just does it now. And instead of meshing, it just goes to 150 in bed temp, and then it goes to the printing temp and then bed temp.
Well, I guess some of the ones that I got off of Thingiverse had the same thing because
it's pretty standard.
Yeah.
It's a standard thing. A lot of people use the BL Touch, CR Touch, and a lot of people. It's also that's why you're getting a little bit more runoff before purge line happens, is because it heats there, and the time it takes to heat from there to 210 or to whatever is getting a little bit out.
Yeah, it's enough to melt it.
Enough to
yeah, and that's probably been the biggest thing I've battled is I don't leave until it runs that purge speed. And until it does the first.
Yeah, I usually wait first layer.
Just wait for Ed in a few months as he's going to be like, I know, look, sent like 7 prints today. And all of them work.
I'm sending from his phone. I'm just going to reprint that.
He just comes over to us and starts showing us his phone. And he's like, hey, look. And
I've done that from work before.
I'm going
to send that. I'll get that when I get home.
There is a plan for something to happen. And when it happens, I'm going to be like, yeah. And then that's when we're going to talk about one of the skits we got coming up.
Yeah, okay.
3D print guy.
Well,
3D print guy.
Yeah. We won't call his name.
No. Don't let him know who he is.
So, but I will say this, glad to have you finally, printing back, printing and, back with us. And I think that kind of brings us.
Oh yeah, we keep
to the end. Where we don't want to keep going too far over. But like I said before, thank you. We're well over the 1,000 listener mark now. We're well into we're going to well into the 1,000. So we're pretty happy about that. From all over the world. We hope everybody had a good holiday and good New Year's. We'll keep bringing you more and more content. You go back and hit the YouTube channel a little bit, and make a comment on the on a couple of the videos, and let us know what you want us to know that you want us to talk about, and also about the pressure chamber that you want us to do, the vacuum chamber for the mini printer. Let us know you want us to do that, and if you do, we'll go ahead and do that, and then maybe down the road. You'll see us come out with a few, ebooks like we let out, yesterday, like last week, and also maybe a couple episodes about this Voron stuff we're working on. But, from my side, I say thank you. Go out there and share it with your friends, let them know what we're talking about. So I'll turn it over to the guys for y'all to have the parting shots.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and start, and I'll give Ed the challenge, I guess, for the rest of the week. You can come up with a challenge, because for me, I've been kind of messing with Tinkercad, and it's been kind of I want to say like a resurgence of like passion, because I've been passionate about 3D printing for a while, but got kind of stagnated with a bit of the struggles with kind of how quickly you can get into a CAD programming software or something like that. I think one of the big steps we've talked about before on this channel is how do we get STEM education or 3D printing in the hands of everyone, and make it more easy to understand and easier to work with. And I think Tinkercad is definitely a stride in the right direction. Not only does it do well with 3D prints, you can do a whole other slew of models and diagrams, designs, and things like that. It's pretty amazing for STEM. So I just wanted to say check that out. Again, I also wanted to say thank you. It's not every day that I get to show my appreciation to you guys. So I always want to make it known. And I always want to say stay tuned. We've got a lot of stuff coming up, and especially with the new year starting, we're not going to slow down. So stay tuned, keep with us, and I'll let Ed kind of give you guys the last few words.
Like I said, I appreciate everybody's support. Appreciate everybody listening to us, putting up with a couple of guys, a couple of crazy guys. But I guess for myself, one of the things that I'm focusing on more this year is kind of focusing on AI. Been using a couple of programs to see how it is. Trying to do a little bit more machine learning. Maybe I could use some of those skills that I'm trying to learn to use with 3D printing. Like I said, I'm not so much interested in modifying the stock Ender I have at the moment, but I will be making my own modifications. Not necessarily what other people have done, just what I feel like far as mechanical, electrical, electronic things that I think would make it more robust. I mean, maybe more even industrial. So I guess that would be my challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate it.
Yep. All right, y'all. Have a good one.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Tech at Lunch podcast, where we hope you learned something about tech during your break or during your lunchtime. If you did, please give us a follow to prevent missing future episodes. If you have any ideas or something you want to hear or learn about, please send us a show idea to podcast@vulcanara.com. Hope you have a good rest of the day and continue learning.